I think, thanks a lot for my esteemed panel, Dr. Samuel. You touched upon, I think let me just introduce myself, who I am actually. So, I've had only a single career, and that's in software. That's the only career I've had for the last 2.5 years. So you can blame it on the industry. I come from the industry, and I work for a technology firm called SAP for the last 12 odd years now. And before that, I've been an entrepreneur, but single industry of a software. So I do work with several universities across the globe. I go back to certify myself every 5 years. So that's reading 4,000 pages back to certify as well, and I work. But I think very interesting, Dr. Samuel, you spoke about the developed and developing countries. That's very important from my perspective. We also saw, we heard about industry involvement, and I think Professor Rao, you certainly mentioned about design, and I think that's a very critical aspect as well. I think the foundation of this for me, an opening statement before I come to technology and so forth, I think education provides foundation for global opportunities. We can't deny that, right? I mean, that's a proof over here. I think if we design this right, or rather we design this right, the world changes, right? That's a key element. I'm not talking, when I say design, by the way, I don't mean technology design. I don't mean design from a technology perspective, all right? And so what's different when we look at, as what Prof was saying, when we look at the world of education through the lens of a design? And most of us obviously have very deeply embedded ideas and views of how they should be structured, you know, and there's no one right answer to it, right? And I myself, perhaps as a designer, maybe in the tech field, my job as I see it as is to understand deeply the conditions deeply, and yeah, come up with what is new or relevant solutions. And you know, I was at Potsdam at one of our D schools, design schools in Potsdam. Potsdam is a university in Berlin, and the tech firm that I work for, like you have B schools, now we have D schools, right? I mean, and D schools doesn't necessarily mean they design only technology oriented. They are D schools for everything, you know. And I did participate in the D school program in one of the workshops. I am a D school participant myself, and also a visiting person to the D school at Potsdam. And this topic came up: how should we design education? And we had both the developed, obviously I'm sitting in Berlin, so it is the developed. We're sitting next to Bundestag, and we're sitting next to the Potsdam universities, and about the developing countries. I mean, I don't have the detailed time, but I think this is a very interesting topic for us as designers as well, to go back and look at it, what's the right fit for it. And there is no one solution, as I said. However, today, in the last few minutes that I have, and as I was asked to speak on, I think from my perspective, so what are some of the key questions in education that, at least from a technology perspective, I believe we can help address, or we are working on, or thinking about to address, all right? Let's look at it from that perspective. And I think some of the things that, you know, some of these points that motivate me or excite me or so forth, I have only 2 slides to share. The first one for me is about learning solutions. And I was traveling this morning, and I was reading a local daily in the flight. I forgot, I think it's I'm not sure if it's a Bangalore edition or it's a Delhi edition or what. And they were actually questioning about the validity of some of the learning platforms. I think for me, my biggest dream will be if I can actually come up with a platform that can actually, and perhaps even as a system that can run, as what Dr. Samuel was saying, for 100 quid or perhaps even 100 rupees maybe. 100 quid is already quite a lot of money anyway. For $100 or whatever that currency matters, there's a tuition fee per month, and learning platforms can actually provide. I think we're working on some exciting learning platforms to come by, which is as you said, personalized learning environments. It's learn at your pace and so forth. And learning platforms by itself don't mean much. So what we have done recently is also to build social learning into that context and provide more content that is available. So this is one part of it that we are working on, and I think there's already enough in it. But what is important for me is commercially, it should be very, very economical to reach out to the masses. And if you ask me, a network of schools who can actually have access to the best of the classrooms across the world, if we can come and design from a technology perspective those platforms, that will be a big thrill for me in my own 3 decades of being in this industry. This is one part of it. So this is with reference to delivering. The other part of it which we are working on, obviously we all heard this morning about accreditation being a huge topic out here. And, you know, all those, what is it, ma'am, some 9 boxes of accreditation that I was educated with the other day in Bangalore, as well as being briefed on the affiliations and accreditations. I think what comes about is that what technologies can we provide to manage education well. What I spoke earlier was about technologies to deliver education. And what do we have that you can run your institutions well? I think that's where I come from. I won't go into the details. We call it a run better university. And obviously there are some drivers or parameters that we measure, we believe we ought to measure in the industry to get an outcome-based performance. So in terms of solutions, of course, broadly we come from the perspective of teaching and learning platforms. That's a big innovation happening. Research, and when I say about research, it's not only also about managing grants of funds. I mean, that's one aspect to it, bringing transparency around that, but it's also to manage, are these research projects environment friendly? Are we having some e-labs? And those kind of things as well. If platforms and technologies can support that. I'm doing currently a very large research-oriented technology project at NUS Singapore, and I think some of these we are beginning to pick up. And lastly, of course, administration is I already spoke about that, and bringing back alumni is extremely key, because as I said, I myself started by saying, it's important for us in the industry as well to go back to the classroom in whatever field it is, and we have to get ourselves certified, and particularly the kind of things that I've come from punch cards to today's mobile. Naturally, I myself have to get certified, and I myself have to go back to B-School very regularly, Prof. So that's what I wanted to share this evening. I think it's been an enlightenment for me to spend a day with the academia. And thanks, Sunita, for having me us, and thanks everybody. My name is Ramesh Kumar.